The opening onslaught in the 2018 National Superstock 1000cc Championship here at Donington Park, and the return of Billy Skippy McConnell after a season blighted by injury last year with FS3 Kawasaki in British Superbikes. The Australian former British Supersport champion makes his return to the track in the National Superstock 1000 Championship in an absolutely packed field, alongside number 33, the reigning British Supersport champion and former National Superstock champ Keith Farmer, and the Ducati Tri-Options champion from last year, Joe Collier, alongside them on the front row of the grid. This is two 13-lap races back-to-back with the infamous 10-minute break in the middle, where there's a compulsory visit to the pits where these fellas can change tyres, top up fuel and prepare themselves for the second half. It's also got an entertainingly complex scoring system. Half points for the first 13-lap race verdict, half points for the second 13-lap verdict, plus respectively 5 points, 3 points and 1 point extra for the front three finishers of that second half of the race. Have you got that? I'll demand it in writing later on. This is the drop down to through Craner Curves that's already the drop down through Craner Curves rather prior to this moment on the track has already cost us a lot of riders during the course of British Superbike qualifying, when the conditions were rather treacherous earlier on. Hopefully they're a bit warmer and we won't have quite so many fallers during the course of this race. The grid, incidentally, totally stacked. 40 riders out there, and about the front 5 rows contain people who could conceivably win this race. Behind the front three of McConnell, Farmer and Collier, we've got Andy Reid heading up the second row of the grid, ahead of Ashley Beach and Chrissy Rouse. The third row of the grid, another former National Superstock champion, Alistair Seeley, alongside the former National Superstock 600 champion, Jordan Weaving, with Maxman Dan Neen, and then another former champion, Josh Elliott, alongside Alex Olsen and Luke Jones. So a lot of guys changing their allegiance from some of the smaller classes and jumping into the 1000cc boat.
Somebody off already on the warm-up lap, Jack.
Oh dear. No, then I was hoping that wasn't going to happen.
And that's coming out to the start and finish. That'll be an eyesight, probably that. And it looks knocked about.
He certainly knocked his number plate about so as to prevent us from even identifying who it is. But here we go. Oh, don't tell me it was Luke Jones. I think it was Luke Jones, as if that lad hasn't banged himself about enough. His whole of the last season in Supersport was pretty much K-lied by the fact that he suffered a very nasty hand injury during pre-season testing, and that put him out pretty much for the year, which is why, of course, Keith Farmer took over the ride with Appleyard McAdam, and
yeah, it's definitely Luke Jones.
It's Luke Jones who's gone down very, very heavily. What an awful start to his year. He's riding the Acumen Simply Car Sales Racing Kawasaki, and the Herefordshire lad hits the dirt hard on his warm-up lap. So the grid looks like this: Billy McConnell, Keith Farmer and Joe Collier on the Aprilia in third place. Andy Reid, also on Aprilia, heads up the second row ahead of Ashley Beach and Chrissy Rouse. Third row of the grid headed by Alistair Seeley, ahead of Jordan Weaving and Dan Neen. And Dan Neen, that's a good showing for a lad who's mainly a road racer, with Jossie Elliott, Alex Olsen and, well, there should have been Luke Jones in 12th place, but we've already seen him painfully off the Kawasaki, so probably out of contention. Fraser Rogers, incidentally, heads up row 5 ahead of Michael Rutter and Leon Geacock. Michael Rutter, of course, 23 years ago, was winning the opening race of the British Superbike Championship right here at Donington Park, and he's probably not a great deal slower now than he was then.
24 years ago he led it as well, in front of me and Carl Fogarty for a while, for a few laps.
Well, before you nailed him.
Well, yeah, but I'll tell you what, respect to him, first time out on a McCulloch Ducati, and he was only about 19 at the time. We were impressed, I remember back then.
And that was he in that beautiful black and gold outfit, of course, with his dad Tony, two-time Formula 2 World Champs helmet design, and the number 4 BMW, the Batham's BMW, back there in the middle of the fifth row of the grid. Behind them, Ben Godfrey, Luke Hedger, Ben Luxton, all sorts of names back there. Lee John Jackson is back on the 7th row of the grid, making his return to the Superstock 1000 Championship. So there's a great strength in depth here, and we've got two racers, and we've got an issue at the back. One of the bikes has pulled off and is being directed down pit lane, so we're now reduced to 38 starters on the grid, and very late joining the grid there, number 67 on that beautiful EHA Racing Aprilia. That's Andy Reid. 13 laps ahead then, the Pirelli National Superstock 1000 Championship in association with Black Horse, and a terrific start by number 3 Billy McConnell on the Bill-based Suzuki. Skippy McConnell absolutely gallops down into the first turn, and that looks like a pretty smooth start for Skippy. He's pulled himself a couple of lengths clear, so has no company going through Redgate. Andy Reid bursts through from the second row of the grid into second place.
Yeah, Reid's been quick on that Aprilia, really tentative down there, and you can see why. Billy just really slowed it up, get a little bit of heat into that left-hand side of the tyre. That'll catch you out, and it'll catch the best riders out.
Jordan Weaving's made a brilliant start. He's moved through from the third row into third place, so Weaving also making a good start. And the other EHA Aprilia just being socked as they go through the right-hander there, and then up the rise to McLean's. Sorry, through Coppice. Look at this, fella, sort yourselves out.
Is that rain on the lens? There's definitely rain on the lens, and they can see it, though. You can see people sort of having a bit of a look. There's definitely, they've had rain on the visor. Looks like there's...
Someone was making a deep. That might have been Chrissy Rouse making a very bold move. It was typical Chrissy Rouse, the Tyneside. There's Michael Rutter in the kind of forefront of the mid-pack, dropping down the hill. Great start also by Josh Elliott from the fourth row of the grid. There he is, number 10. He's through into third place. There's so many good names in this field. That's number 11. Collier moving through there into fourth place. Joe Collier, the reigning Ducati Tri-Options champion, back where he belongs in a mixed class.
Just watch for flags coming out. You can see a white flag, red cross. It means that there's spots of rain falling in that part of the circuit. If there's an oil flag next to it, or a diminished adhesion flag, that's yellow and red stripe, that means that it is affecting the surface. But nothing yet I've seen.
Andy Reid there lying in second place ahead of his fellow Ulsterman Josh Elliott. What a contrasting characters together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yeah. Josh Elliott, quiet, kind of reserved kid, bespectacled. Andy Reid very much more outgoing, a bit louder, tattoos everywhere.
And it's Chrissy Rouse there who's making some strong moves on bike number 69 now on the Team IMR BMW rather than the Mission Racing bike he was on last year. Definitely spots on the lens. Oh, and a big moment there for the number 43 machine of Alistair Seeley on the South Connect Academy bike. Seeley, who was dismayed to find the van just in front of him 2 places there, number 34. Jordan Weaving had commandeered Alistair's regular number 34 plate, so he simply reversed the numbers. That was a move there by Josh Elliott downhill into the hairpin.
Yeah.
There's Rouse.
There's a little, he's there. There's a little bit of rain falling now down at Foggy Esses, so it is moving on.
And the Douglas-based marksman, number 41, Dan Neen, having a terrific ride on the Tyco BMW. Presumably this is a kind of warm-up for his Roads campaign.
That's exactly what it is.
Look how strong he is on the short circuits. He's ahead of the second of the Tyco BMW. So strong performance then by Neen, number 41. He's running in 5th place ahead of Collier, Seeley, Farmer, Weaving. Olsen rounds out the top 10. This is an incredibly strong field. Fraser Rogers in 11th, Michael Rutter 12th. And Lee Jackson buried in 15th place. He was a second place man at Cadwell Park in British Superbikes just less than a year ago.
Yep, stepping back into the Superstock class. He's been in it before. I think 3 years he spent in BSB.
And we've had a fall. Dean Hipwell, I think, has gone down. Dean Hipwell, super consistent rider, Dean Hipwell. It's unlike him to fall.
Yeah, let's have a look. That's just before. Is that Coppice? No, that's just before Coppice. Yeah, top of crane of that he was looking at. So that's Redgate. Lost the front going in there.
Meanwhile, this is Josh Elliott beginning. Remember Josh Elliott last year, James? He had a really unfortunate start to the year. Didn't have a ride really, and missed the first 3 or 4 rounds of the series. And then joined the series and started making some inroads. Ended up in 9th place overall. after a second place finish at Silverstone and a couple of rostrums at Alton Park and Brands. So he was getting on the pace towards the end of the season.
Good little ride. I've always rated him, actually.
We used to enjoy him in European Superstock 600, didn't we, back in the day when he was a lad first making his moves on the European circuits. Andy Reid behind him, and then the next man across the line now, Dan Neen, is really impressing in fourth place, ahead of Rouse, Farmer, Collier. We're on lap 4 of 13, and Chrissy Rouse is now hounding the Maxman down Dan Neen as they go down Craner Curves. And Chrissy, the former Newcastle University student, I think he's graduated now, I may have got that wrong, is really, you know when he's pressing you that you're going to have some real lively company, and he could try a lunge or stick his nose in anywhere he wants. Meanwhile, the far more gentlemanly number 10, Josh Elliott, is riding on the back wheel now of Billy McConnell.
Yeah, they're definitely seeing the rain, and it's affecting the riding some more than others, because lap times are down at 1:33. That's around about sort of 2.5 seconds slower than they are capable of, even in these sort of cold conditions. It's the rain that's putting them off a little bit. Obviously, like I say, some more than others. That's why it's split up a little bit.
A good debut ride at the moment for Billy McConnell on the build-based Suzuki. Remember, that bike came very close to the title last year in the hands of Richard Cooper. A very different rider, of course, from the big, strong Australian.
Yeah, new. That's the new G6000 Suzuki. It's been out a year now, like you say, and ran really strong with Cooper last year. One of the problems is it's probably, if it has a sort of weaker side compared to the BMs, it's probably there. It just hasn't got the top end, but it's got variable valve timings. It's really good mid-range, really tractable. The front end of the bike feels beautiful when you ride it. It feels like a 600 with a big engine. It's a nice piece of kit, is that new G6R.
James, the man behind him is almost the only bloke in this race who stayed on with the same team for 2018, Morello Racing Kawasaki.
Yep.
Meanwhile, this lot dancing downhill. Keith Farmer's the man who's made the move. Keith Farmer has pushed his way through on the Tyco BMW into fourth place and has broken clear. He's managed that rather quickly. I'm just wondering if these two, if Neen and Chrissy Rouse had a bit of coming together here, because two riders have escaped in front of them. Fraser Rogers is picking his way through the pack as well. Number 89, now up to 9th place. Meanwhile, here comes number 10, Josh Elliott. Not quite. Skippy McConnell blocks the way. Once again, over the hill into the Melbourne Loop.
He's having a look now.
Yeah. Oh, taking that narrow. It's going to cost him going uphill. Skippy decides to pick up the Suzuki and tries to outgun the Kawasaki up the hill. But it didn't quite work, and Josh Elliott takes the lead. Josh Elliott with that familiar head-up riding style and that wonderful kind of visor almost too high up his head that he's always ridden with.
Big lad is Jossie now.
Yes, he is, a gangling lad.
I think he's a bit more thick set now, you know. He looks to put a lot of weight on.
Go on, go for it, boys. Have an Australian elbow.
Reedy's not giving up either.
No,
not that he ever would.
No, but he's actually just set his best lap, 1:32.28, which is about close to a half a second quicker than McConnell. And so Andy Reid beginning to... It's good to see an Aprilia running strongly.
Yeah, it is.
Luke Hedger kind of hinted at what the Aprilia could do last season, and but this is really running up front, isn't it?
Yep, the Aprilia is a different layout. That's a V4, still 1000cc obviously in this class, but V4 instead of a straight across the frame fall like the Kawasaki and the Suzuki that are in front of it. Little compact bike is the Aprilia. The engine, when you see engine out of a frame, it's just a block. It's just like it's a really easy engine to build a frame round because there's no sticking out bits.
And he just keeps on hitting that curve coming out of Coppice at the top of the hill there. Oh boys, sort yourselves out. Number 75, Alex Olsen, is in the mix there. He was quietly improving all season on the 1000cc bike. Here's Keith Farmer. Oh, tucks his way through. I'm not so sure that he didn't just lose out on the climb up there towards Goddard's. Meantime, the leaders exit Goddard's to complete lap 6 of 13 in the National Superstock Championship, the opening exchange of this series. I said it was packed with talent, but you've got to say that it's spread out a bit. Joe Collier's breaking clear in 4th place. Chrissy Rouse and Fraser Rogers. I'm really impressed with Rogers. He's come a long way through to 6th ahead of Farmer, who must have made a mistake. I thought he might have gone a bit too, got himself messed up down at the Melbourne hairpin, Keith Farmer. Behind him we've got Olsen. Alistair Seeley now 9th. Dan Neen has been buffeted back to 10th place. Not used to this elbow-to-elbow stuff. Yeah, meanwhile, Skippy McConnell back at the front.
Did we see what happened? Oh, where? Yeah, Fraser Rogers on the Mission Racing bike now. Taking over from Chris Hill.
Yeah, the Huddersfield team.
Yeah, the place got, well, did not thank you for saying that, but Marsden, a cute little village called Marsden, right in the bottom of the valley it is.
I'm looking for their second rider, the Australian Braden Elliott, but I can't see him in the top 30, which is on my screen. Obviously, there are others on another screen unknown to us. Look at this, Andy Reid working really, really hard, taking some flamboyant lines. Remember when he used to take those extremely flamboyant lines on a 125?
Yes, and generally it knocked somebody off in the
yes.
Rarely did a lap go by when he didn't have somebody in the ditch.
It looks like he's trying the same tactic here.
Always quick though. Always quick.
Oh, I think Ashley Beach has entered the pits on the Dorling Jones racing bike. He qualified well as well. The fella from Oldham on the Jones Dorling racing BMW.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race, last lap for McConnell, and that's why he's got a little bit of a gap. I think what we've seen is just McConnell thinking, right, it's not raining as much now, I'll push on. They're still around about a second and a bit slower than what they're capable of around here.
Meanwhile, the mid-pack dances down Craner curves, at least looking generally more secure than during the qualifying session for Superbikes. And yeah, that Mission Racing bike at Fraser Rogers looking really... He's another lad he's sprouted during his teens. He's got ridiculously tall.
Came on really well last year.
Yes.
And really the first rider to put the new Kawasaki anywhere near the front in a super stock race. A lot of people went back to BMWs last year.
So we're on lap 8 of 13 with McConnell easing clear now and leaving the two, the man from Ballin and Mallard and the man from Belfast locked together in 2nd and 3rd places. And look how little that Aprilia is.
Yeah, tiny, but he's a tall lad though, isn't he? And he's quite tall, sort of skinny lad.
But it's got a little frontal area compared to
tiny. Well, that's because it's only got 2 cylinders in width. There's one bank behind the other.
So it's McConnell, Elliott and Reid at the moment looking like potential podium finishers in the first half of this opening Superstock 1000 exchange. Collier should cross the line in 4th place. He's broken clear a bit. And Collier, number 11, also riding for EHA Racing. He, of course, lives in Donington Laheath. So, you know, he can go home and sleep in his own bed at night when he's racing here at Donington Park.
Why would you want that? Normally cleaner, isn't it, in a hotel?
I don't know. That's Reid. Reid's gone down.
Oh.
He's been riding so strongly and yes, flamboyantly, and he's been annoyed with himself. He was just getting right on the back wheel of the super secure Josh Elliott, and it's just like he lost the rear, James. Just spun away underneath him. I'm sure Slow-Mo will allow an explanation that you'd be able to give us here.
Yeah, that is a weird one. I have to say, I've never... Normally, I mean, you lose the rear quite a lot. Not necessarily there. That's early in the corner. It's early at the old hairpin to lose the rear. But the interesting thing there is it didn't come back at him. It didn't grip. It didn't flip him over the top. And therefore, it didn't smash him at the back to bits, which it probably would have done.
Did that hint that he was lined off the throttle when it went down and just skated away?
Just about getting back on the throttle there.
So that leaves Billy McConnell and Josh Elliott clear at the front. McConnell a bit deep into Goddard's, but looking comfortable enough. And that will put Joe Collier up to 3rd on the 2nd of the AHA Racing Aprilias.
But when you see what Billy McConnell was able to do on that Suzuki during qualifying, it was 1.2 seconds quicker than anybody else in the 2nd place man. It was very tightly packed after that, as you'd expect in a class as tight as this, but yeah, it was a lot quicker than anybody.
When I said Joe Collier would inherit third place, I'd reckoned without Keith Farmer. Talking about further examples of super aggressive Ulstermen, Keith Farmer has nabbed that third place from Joe Collier, and then that's the battle going on then for the final rostrum place. And Collier's tagged on, the quiet young man originally from Colville outside Leicester, as we watch. Whoa, and there is a classic move by Chrissy Rouse. I beg your pardon, not by Chrissy Rouse. Was it Rouse who went through? Yes, it was Rouse who prodded his way through. And it's Fraser Rogers who's suffering there, because here comes Alistair Seeley following through on bike number 43. So that means 2 places lost in 2 bends for Fraser Rogers. And that puts him right back with Alex Olsen. Michael Rutter's picked his way through to 9th place ahead of Dan Neen in 10th and Jordan Gilbert 11th.
Oh, that's going to end in tears.
Oh! Oof.
Now Collier completely out of control, got the rear end lifting up, had to let the brake off, and at that point I thought he was about to run wide. The problem there was he was up the inside there, the Farmer. Not that Farmer would have known anything about that, to be honest.
Just checking downfield, look at some of the newcomers to the 1000cc category. We've got Jordan Gilbert running in 11th place. We've got Weaving's back in 16th. Tom Ward in 19th place. That was the moment. Wow, he managed to anchor up just.
He started a long time before that.
So this is the battle then for third place. McConnell leads it. He's set another best lap of 134.145. Beg your pardon, his last lap was a 134.19.
Yeah.
And even then he was about 8/10 quicker than Josh Elliott in second place. So the Suzuki looking like the ideal weapon for this class right now in the hands of Billy McConnell. Jordan Weaving.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh, man. Weaving will be really disappointed with himself. The young South African trudges off. So he was on the Briggs Equipment Kawasaki that's run from the same garage as Jake Dixon, of course, and the RAF Regular and Reserves camp. So McConnell, Elliott, this battle between Farmer and Collier, and then Rouse ahead of Seeley, Rogers. Again, Alistair Seeley from a long way back has just picked his way through the field without any drama and ended up so far in 6th place on the Stout Connect Academy bike.
New livery for Tyco this year. Almost the same kind of design, but little bits of tweaks and a darker metallic blue. It's beautiful looking. It was before, but it is now. Here comes Collier.
Edges his way underneath. Can he turn it tight enough? Oh, you don't do that to Keith Farmer without retaliation.
We knew that was going to happen.
What Keith does is he rides bikes big and small exactly the same.
He does, exactly. Very aggressively.
Yeah.
So that looks like it's riled up Collier. Collier up the inside does run a little bit wide, but he's coming back to an apex there, but oof. 3 of them lads are ex-racers, so they know what it feels like.
We're on the 12th lap of 13, so Joe's back at the back end of the Aprilia, just letting go a bit then as he wrings its neck and then tries to get in the slipstream, pulls out early to try his hand again down into the chicane. So, this is entertaining. So this could go to the wire if they both stay upright. Dropping down the hill now. They just turned 22-year-old Joe Collier right on the back wheel of number 33, Keith Farmer. Again, not able. There's McConnell crossing the line. Behind him, Josh Elliott. I'd almost forgotten that Elliott's cruising comfortably around there in second place. Oh, that's the way it looks. And then this battle going on. The Suzuki, the Tyco BMW rather, gets out of the Goddard's really quickly.
Yeah, it does.
Got a good advantage there.
Have a little bit of acceleration there.
And then Seeley now up into 5th place. Rouse back to 6th. Rogers in 7th. This is number 12, Luke Hedger. He's running in 10th place. And right behind him, number 96, Jordan Gilbert, who has leapt from runner-up in the the National Superstock 600 Championship last year into onto the 1000cc bike, so very much a rookie in this class.
Yeah, this Farmer and Collier, and they've got a back marker to deal with now.
I think this is number 75, Alex. No, it can't be Alex Olsen. They're coming up to that, sorry. It was Alex Olsen. Yes, Alex Olsen's in trouble. He was running strongly in the top. He's the one who disappeared from the top 10.
Yeah.
And it looks as if Keith Farmer, if he just remains mistake-man, there's always the plunge down towards the Melbourne Loop, isn't there, that can provide fireworks here at Donington Park. But look at that, the pace of the BMW herring out of the Foggy S's there opens up a bit of the gap. Meanwhile, at the front, the build-based Suzuki. I was going to say carries on where Richard Cooper left off. Pretty much does. Perfect performance by Billy McConnell off pole position. He eventually puts the opposition in their place, and the Australian takes victory on his debut ride for Stewart and Steve Hickens' team.
Yeah.
Second for Elliott, third place for Farmer.
A lot of people in Panacle like that Billy McConnell win because he's just so popular. Here we go.
Oh, they're running for the line there between. I think Dan Nee nicked it. He did. He nicked that seventh place off Fraser Rogers after Rogers had a good mid-race.
Good ride from Nee, that.
Brilliant ride for Nee. Yeah, we expect the pure road racing specialists to be not exactly passengers, but certainly relative cruisers on the short circuits, and that was a proper race he put in there. And there we are, look at the splendid Stetson on there. We see build-based Suzuki boss Stewart Hicken enjoying the fact that they've come up with victory straight away, having so narrowly lost the championship, of course, with Richard Cooper last season. So good to see Billy Elliott.
Well, you've got a Billy and you've got an Elliott, right?
And I'm a boy from Billingham, which Billy Elliott was. So wonderful. So the third, now 31-year-old Australian Billy McConnell then takes victory in the first 13-lap encounter. We now have a 10-minute break during which these guys take a breather, get some fuel and tyres sorted out, and then go back out and do it all over again. So this is the result of that first encounter. Billy McConnell takes the victory ahead of Josh Elliott, Keith Farmer, Tyco BMW in third place, and Aprilia in fourth place, which I now realise is 4 manufacturers in the top 4. Alistair Seeley fifth, and then a phalanx of BMWs. Chrissy Rouse, Dan Neen, Fraser Rogers, Michael Rutter and Luke Hedger in that top 10. 11th place for Jordan Gilbert. A good debut ride for Jordan Gilbert, Geordie boy, in 11th place out of Leon Geacock. Lee Bob Jackson down in 13th place. He's got work to do. 14th for Sam Clark. Ben Godfrey in 15th place gets the final point ahead of Matt Truelove, another of the rookies, Tom Ward up from Supersport, Paul McClung, Ben Luxton and Barry Teasdale in 20th place.